What's up, traders? Welcome to this week's episode of the Weekend Crypto Report, where, as always, I do a technical analysis and give you my thoughts on the coins listed up above here. This is, of course, for the 2 days where our beloved stock market is closed, aka the weekend. Starting off, we are looking at the Bitcoin daily chart because we are, as you can see here, breaking out into relatively new and uncharted territories. We need to look left from the daily and kind of pick out areas of support and resistance from there. So grabbing our drawing tool and just mapping out this prior pivot point, you can see that we got a number of rejections via upper wicks in here and here, certainly acted as support, and a couple of wicks have stacked in this area as well. It's just north of $50,000 per coin. I would argue that you should probably pay close attention to 50K per coin just because it's that nice round psychological number. If we do get a breakout of this daily bull flag that's forming here, that would be a great anticipated target right up around that round number. So that's what I'm seeing overhead from the daily perspective. Let's drill down now to the 4 hour and talk about what's going on from an intraday perspective. So just kind of zooming in a bit here. First thing that I notice is that we are in an area of balance, right? Something that looks like this. And as we know, we always get opportunity either at the top of the range or the bottom, and we're certainly pressing into the top of that range. That paired with the fact that we had a daily bull flag in place, we're going to go ahead and wait and see if we get some sort of breakout. So I would be a confirmed breakout buyer if we start to take out 47,500. If that goes, then boom, as we know, we have that room to run up towards 50K, the nice round number. I would argue that this consolidation low needs to hold as an ideal area of support. Again, that's going to be here at 46,750, we'll call it. If that can hold, that would be the most bullish outcome through the weekend. Again, consolidation here would strike me as bullish. The fact that we're not getting hard price rejection off of the top of the range like we saw here. So again, this price acceptance does strike me as bullish. We talked about upside targets. If we do break down underneath this consolidation low, I would be very skeptical. I wouldn't be short. I wouldn't just unload my Bitcoin either. I would wait to see what happens at the 50% of the range, and just to give you an eyeball number of where that would be, probably right around this 46,000 mark, and then of course support coming in at the bottom of the range here at 45,000, we'll call it for round number's sake. So Bitcoin certainly still in a bullish uptrend, and we are looking for that breakout. I would also argue that you could be someone who watches something like this for a support trend line off of our major pivot low. This was our first pullback that comes into contact here, so watch out for that if we do get some sort of rollover as well. Overall, as we've summed up, Bitcoin is fairly bullish at this point in time. Litecoin, moving on and seeing what's going on this chart. Again, let's flip back over to the 1 day chart to see what's going on. From this perspective, we are going to have to map out a area of resistance that's overhead based from this chart. So just extending this, making this work for our visuals here. There we go. And what we'll do is just map out this area of resistance, which of course we'll see on that intraday time frame in just a moment. But after that, I'd argue it's probably closer to here around 198. Call it 200, nice psychological number. Same sort of deal as what we discussed with Bitcoin there. So dropping it back down to the 4 hour to see how these levels kind of line up. We'll go back to auto mode here. You can see a clear uptrend is in place, right? So I could do something like this from our pivot low, connecting some of the lows like this. I'll sort of split the difference, right? We pulled back into it here, violated a bit, but this is certainly respecting and holding up well. So we are forming higher lows, and what I like about this chart here, instead of trading at the top of the range, it did technically put in a higher high. So we'll put an HH for up here. So any sort of pullbacks into the support trend line this time should be viable to continue this uptrend and put in yet another higher low. So if we get down here, start to be on high alert for any type of hammer candles, any sort of indecision dojis, basically anything that would make you question, there we go, is this downtrend slash miniature pullback coming to an end? Can we flip long over the highs and retarget this high in here, which as we know is at 181. So that's the pullback case. Obviously the breakout case like we have with Bitcoin is consolidation that holds these lows that we're kind of forming right now. I would argue it's kind of in here around 175 the whole dollar. If we can consolidate and hold up in this range, put in this 4 hour bull flag that would look like this, obviously you're taking the break over the highs 181.81 to target that next major level up above, which is right around just shy of 200 psychological. So Litecoin pretty much just as bullish, if not slightly more bullish than Bitcoin, simply because of the trend that it's currently experiencing right here instead of being kind of in that range. Next up, we have Ethereum. Let's go back again to our daily time frame chart, put this on auto and map out some other areas of resistance that we're seeing. So nice consolidation up here at the highs, really respecting that trend line that we've had in there for some time now. I would argue that is a critical area of resistance based on the daily. You can see these wicks in here and kind of support in that general zone as well. It's at 36.70, so that would be an upside upside target first, and then maybe there's one slightly underneath here, just kind of splitting the difference between some of these wicks. So you can see these lower wicks, and then certainly resistance right there as well at 34.10 here on Ethereum. So let's drop it down now to the 4-hour, see where that kind of leaves us off. Again, the support trend line is still intact, which we have had on the chart for quite some time now. So looking for that to continue to remain intact, kind of just like Bitcoin rather than Ethereum, or excuse me, Litecoin here. We are looking at more of a consolidation range like this, and again, holding up towards that top end of the range always provides a little bit more opportunity than trading somewhere in the middle, so that is a good thing. Looking for consolidation to hold up in this little 4-hour flag that we've put in for the break, as we know, to trade up towards that 34.10, which was just discussed. I would argue on this one, the breakout point is a little bit higher than this 32.09 that we have mapped in here. It's probably closer to 32.60, 32.50, somewhere in that general zone. Look for volume to really pick up on that breakout as it's consolidating right now. What I like is that volume is actually tapering off just a little bit, right? Something like this as price is going sideways and accepting these prices up and over 3,000. So again, if you want to use a larger line in the sand to the downside, 3,000 is the number to watch. Any consolidation and healthy support above that does strike me as bullish. Let's move on now to Cardano, which is ADA, of course. And this one is, if you wanted to double your money, this was the one to do it with. I mean, literally moving from 110, 105, if you want to count these lows, to right around $2 now. So pretty impressive moves here in Cardano, and you can see there isn't really a whole lot that we have underneath us that we've got mapped so far. So let's go ahead and do that from this daily perspective. I would go ahead and argue there is some resistance here. We'll fine tune that in just a bit, and then zooming in a little bit, actually, if we do something like this, just scrunching back. And there it is. So you got to hold command on TradingView. Okay, what we were looking for was our next major area of resistance, which I would argue is kind of in here. And of course, we'll just throw in the all-time high, pivot high way up there, close to 238, just for the sake of it. Now we'll go back down to the 4-hour time frame chart, and we will go back to where we're at now, currently. If we could scroll, let's see. There we go. So 4-hour chart, we're on it. And here we go. What are we looking at now? So first things first, we did see a significant pullback, and that kind of aligned not so much the resistance up here, but we'll do something like this. There we go. So we have 168 to the downside here and 188 to the upside, certainly consolidating, breaking out above it. This isn't the best place to go long. I'll just say that right now. Based on what we have here, you really want to see some sort of pullback after making this leg higher. So I would say if we can pull back into this 188, hold this as support. So again, watching for any type of hammer candles, anything that looks like an indecision candle, anything that would make you question, is this pullback starting to end? Can we flip long over the highs to retarget our pivot here at around 2055, we'll call it, just for round numbers sake? That would be the potential play here on Cardano. I don't think the long is right here. I do think it needs some sort of pullback to cool off, if you will, after this sort of move higher. After that, as we know, the target from that daily, which we mapped out, is at 216 and then 238 up above. The trend here is extremely strong. You can see the trend line that we've had on. We've went parabolic from it, and generally what you can do when this happens is draw on a minor trend line, we would call it. So we would go from this low in here, doing something like that, to kind of encapsulate this as a first touch. Again, you don't generally expect this to hold forever, but because this one is so far away, we would likely see something like this. Again, if you start to see support come into play at the support trend line and this prior breakout point, then phenomenal. That's a super support. You're looking for the long at this area. As we discussed, come back up and revisit the highs. We discussed support underneath, and then way down there, if we do come into this support trend line, I would be looking for a reversal as well, but I don't necessarily think that's on the plate for the upcoming weekend. Next up, we'll move over to the Dogecoin. And this one actually did make an impressive move, right? It's moving with the rest of crypto, which is cool to see. However, to me, it's just, I'd rather trade the three majors, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. But if you're into Doge, that's cool too. You can see that we are running into a little bit of overhead resistance at 0.2829. You can see multiple touches there. But what we do have as well, kind of like all of our other coins, is a new support trend line, something that could be in play like this. And of course, this is an ascending triangle, right? So basically what we're looking for is consolidation either further, something like this to tighten the range, and then you take the break up and over the top of that wedge at 0.2829. As discussed. In that case, what are our targets to the left? Well, scrunching the chart up to kind of find some, I would argue that in here should be on your radar first, kind of around that 0.30 or 0.3071 rather. It's always tricky moving from different sides of the decimal point. You get something trading at 50K and then fractions of a penny down here with Doge. So always kind of a fun mental game to play. Anyways, zooming in, that's the upside target for probably the weekend. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Anyways, on a break of the support trend line, what you're looking to do do is fill up the triangle, something like this. You're looking for probably not the short, but maybe a re-entry long if you start to spot any type of hammer candles, any indecision candles, anything that would basically make you question, is it time to flip long back over the highs? Stop goes just underneath, obviously, there, and that's at 20 or 0.2382, of course. So that's the potential play there if we get a breakdown of the support trend line. But as it sits, chart is actually looking fairly bullish here. I'm not a huge fan of the fake break there, but not the end of the world as long as it respects the support trend line. Next up, we'll go over to Ripple XRP here, and the same thing, we'll scrunch it up, see what we can find. Let's go back to the daily, make this a little bit easier to spot, doing something like this. So where are we at? Kind of at a known area of resistance, right? You can see all these upper wicks forming in here. We'll scrunch the chart a bit, see what the next major level is, and I would argue it's up here around 1.288, and now we'll drop it back down to that 4-hour time frame chart to see a little bit more clearly what we have for granular price action, and certainly a nice inverted H, right? You could look at it as something like this. There's your inverted H. You take the break over this resistance trend line to trade up towards that next major target, which we discussed from the daily perspective, as we know, kind of way up there at 1.288. So quite a lot of meat left on the bone. I'm not going to say it's going to get there flawlessly, but that would be the anticipated target from that daily perspective. Obviously, if we pull back any further or one more time, the area you need to see hold is here at 0.3 or 0.9310. That is the pullback low that you want to see respected. And of course, we'll draw in a support trend line as well. There's probably a couple you could do. One like this, that might be the equivalent of the Cardano one that's kind of far away. And then you have the more short-term support trend line, something that would look like that. I would say through the weekend, we will be getting into it. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we break it sideways through time. What you don't want to see, though, is just a huge aggressive move, probably that breaks that support, which we discussed at 0.9310. That is the line in the sand I would use for Ripple into the weekend. So really not placing a ton of emphasis on that support trend line that we just drew last. Next up, we have XLM for Stellar, and this will wrap up the analysis here. Let's go ahead and put this to auto. Are we in blue skies or relatively uncharted territories? Yes, going and mapping out this area here as resistance. You can certainly see those touches there. And then we'll go with, we had prior support in here as well. That's kind of acting now. So we'll go one more to the upside, and we'll split the difference between these two peaks in there around 0.3929. There we go. And zooming back in to see what we got for structure. So everything looks good here. We are making higher highs and higher lows, so that does strike me as bullish. Again, this support trend line is probably more so in play than what we just looked at on Ripple. So any pullbacks into this would afford us the new higher low, right? So you do something like this from the major low, which was last set right here, and then we're just looking for a new higher high, something over this 0.3697. In that case, we know the upside target would be here at 0.3929. But, you know, wouldn't be the end of the world if we made an incremental high in here, pulled back again, did something like that to continue this 4-hour uptrend. So the chart still looks good. The uptrends are still intact across all of these cryptos. If this does fail here at the trend line as a higher low, what we're looking to do is just, again, fill up that triangle down towards the bottom in here, 0.3108. And I would be looking for that to act as support. So again, any sort of hammer candles, any sort of indecision candles like this, anything that would make you question, is the pullback coming to an end? Can we flip long over the highs and trade back up towards the top of that range? It would be, right? This would be some sort of range at that point in time, back towards 0.3504. So that's going to wrap it up. Again, most cryptos are in new uptrends. There is some renewed interest in this stuff, and I do think that is good for the space in general. If you enjoyed today's video or learned anything new, let me know down below in the comments section or by simply giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget that we do have the weekly watch list coming out on Sunday, and all of that being said, I wish you a green trading weekend.